sitting in the 2026 Toyota RAV4. This is the 6th generation, and Toyota has made some pretty radical changes. First off, they have ditched the gas-only powertrain, and that's pretty radical. But there's more. And they've implemented some pretty major changes throughout, because the RAV4 has been the #1 or #2 best-selling SUV in the US for many years. That means they've had to walk a pretty fine line between innovation and new features, and all at the same time while not messing with the formula that has been a huge success for them. The RAV4 is now 30 years old, and they've sold 6.4 million in the US, and in fact last year they sold 358,000 alone in 2024.
Now, the first radical thing that Toyota has done is they have ditched the gas-only engine. Now you get only 2 hybrid options. You've got a base motor, 2.5-liter 4-cylinder, makes either 226 or 236 horsepower depending on drive configuration, and the second one is a plug-in hybrid that makes about 324 horsepower. That's up 22 from the outgoing model, and it can go up to 51 miles on electric-only range.
And they're saying you're going to be able to get up to 44 miles per gallon combined. Now, I haven't tried that, but Toyota is typically a little bit on the conservative side. So if that is the case, those are some pretty strong numbers for a mid-size SUV that weighs 4,300 pounds. And the next most radical thing that Toyota has done is the design language of this 2026 RAV4. So kind of like the F-150 or any popular pickup truck, they have now broken out the lineup into 3 distinct characters. So this is part of the core lineup, as they call it. There's also Sport and Rugged, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes.
In this video, we're going to take a quick look at all 3 of them and also take a drive in each one.
I think this angle right here is probably the best look. It has sort of a low, rugged, chunky look, a little bit of Lego happening here, but what they've also got is some very interesting character lines. You've got this line that goes across all the way from here, and it goes up into the end of the window, and a pretty big, aggressive lower valance on the side too.
They've simplified the interior quite a bit and gone with higher quality materials. It definitely has more of an off-road kind of feel, kind of reminiscent of the 4Runner. This is an optional 12.9-inch center display, and in front of the driver you've got a new display with integrated maps, and it's got really good black contrast levels, quite easy to use. Toyota has a next generation multimedia audio system, and it has brand new hardware and software. This is a ground up design. You've now got customizable pages that you can set up to configure the car exactly how you want. The heating and ventilation controls are mostly digital. However, you do have physical temperature control knobs. You can change where the air goes on screen, and those never go away. They're always persistent. They've also introduced a new voice command system where the hardware is now completely on board with the vehicle. So if you're going to give it navigation directions or change the temperature or where the airflow goes, it's actually pretty fast and it works pretty well.
Hey Toyota, give me airflow to my feet and my body.
Adjusting air towards body and feet.
I'm sitting in the back seat. I'm 5'9", and I've got like 6-8 inches of headroom. So I think if you're tall, this is actually going to be a good place for taller people too. I've got a pretty decent amount of knee room in front of me. You've got this pocket over here. And this material is very nice. It is a simulated leather.
So with that, let's go for a quick drive.
So they have done a lot of work on the chassis to stiffen it up, and I do think that there is less noise in here than in the past. It does seem to be a little bit stiffer, but the ride quality is pretty good. This is a mainstream Toyota vehicle, so this is not going to be particularly rough. That's going to be more for the GR Sport, which we're going to drive later, which apparently has better dynamics. Let's hit it. Okay, so that's all the power from both the electric motor and also the gas motor. There's a little bit of a lag when you take off from a start, but let's try the braking, which I think has been really good so far. It has regenerative braking, not user controllable, but you really can't tell when the regen is kicking in and the actual friction surface of the material of the pads against the rotors is kicking in. It's very difficult to tell. They've done an amazing job of blending the two braking elements together. If I take off at part throttle, which is pretty typical, it's very difficult to tell when you've got the electric motor working, when you've got the gas motor working. It is really, really seamless. This is something that Toyota has done so well, and this is definitely the most integrated I've felt yet. Handling for a 4,300 pound SUV is pretty good. I think it's going to be a lot better in the GR Sport, but it feels very composed. And one thing that I didn't like so much in the last generation is that when you mat the gas, you get this sort of droney 2.5 liter noise. Let's see if that happens here. You do, but it is not as apparent as it was anymore. It seems like they have toned down that amount of grating, not very pleasant sounding 4-cylinder noise. It still doesn't sound great, but it is less apparent. There's nothing that is sort of breaking the illusion that I'm in, just a really good SUV that is just going to sort of fall into the background, and I'm going to be able to go to work, pick up my kids, sit in traffic, go on long trips. Everything just seems to work really seamlessly. The steering is pretty light. So let's go take a drive in the next vehicle. This is the GR Sport, and this is something that is completely new to the RAV4 lineup. In fact, this is the first GR Sport vehicle of the entire Toyota lineup. So they're kind of launching it with the most popular vehicle in the lineup, which I think is pretty interesting. So some of the significant things that this has compared to the regular vehicles is, first, this is about 15 millimeters lower, and the track is 20 millimeters wider than the other versions. And you've got a pretty unique front grille with this hexagonal shape. I think they call it the Matrix grille. And you've also got these little vertical accent lights, which are pretty cool. And then you have active shutters here as well to improve aerodynamics. And actually, this has real aerodynamics, they say. They say that aerodynamics are functional in this. We have this little front lip, which is sort of hard to see, but they call it a front lip. They say it actually is functional. And then going all the way around to the rear, the unique thing is that this has this rear spoiler. And this, of course, is unique as well. So it just gives it a more interesting stance. And apparently, it actually produces more downforce. Now, this actually does have some mechanical changes too to the suspension. So the suspension on this has unique dampers and I believe a unique spring rate as well. They say there's also a cover for the rear lower control arm. I'm not exactly sure what that does, but you do get standard summer tires that are 235 tires. They are wider, they are stickier, and as an option, a no-cost option, you can get all season tires. Now this is only available in the plug-in hybrid version. So this is 324 horsepower and about 173 pound-feet of torque. This is a J1772 charger, which is a level 2. This has a 7 kilowatt onboard charging system. This should be able to charge from 10 to 80% in about 4 hours, I believe. And you can also just plug this into your regular 120 volt AC outlet. Some of the other versions, like the Woodland, comes with a DC fast charger. Now, I think this looks pretty darn good. So let's go for a quick drive and see how this performs. Oh, but before we do that, we got to check out the interior. So the interior treatment in here is a little bit different than the other versions. First off, you've got these GR Sport seats with this very cool GR logo. You have this sort of Brin knob fabric. It's basically a suede type fabric. They say this is anti-static, so it's not going to build up static. That's kind of nice. You're not going to be sliding around. You've got more bolstering on the seats. And these are actually super comfortable. And what you also get is this red stitching on the steering wheel. And you've got it on the shift boot, and you get a GR logo on the steering wheel too. So this all looks a little bit unique. And they say that when you start it up, it has a unique GR specific start screen. Whoa. So let's go for a quick drive. I've got it in EV only mode, so only electrons are going to propel me. Let's hit it from a start. So it's pretty quick up to about 40 miles an hour, and then it kind of dies off. This can do about 48 miles of electric only range. Now we're going to try it with the electric motor and the gas motor both enabled. A little bit of wheel spin. Oh, whoa! When the gas motor kicks in, it's actually pretty quick, 324 horsepower. This is, I think, the fastest RAV4 I have driven to date. that's pretty good. It actually feels pretty good. When you get above 40 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, it seems like the gas motor really gives a little extra bit of oomph and kind of keeps you moving. And you can definitely feel the combined torque feels like more than 174. Now, in terms of the steering, apparently the steering has been retuned to make it a little bit more sporty, and this definitely has more weight than driving the other models. It feels, I think there's a little bit more feel in here, but I like the weight better. But overall, the body control, the motion control, this is definitely a more sporty drive. It's not harsh by any means. This has different dampers in here. There's specific different spring rates too. It has some different rear suspension components, and this has just been tuned to be a little bit more sporty from the Toyota Gazoo Racing department. It is developed in conjunction with them. Now, I'd love to find some corners to go around. It doesn't seem like it's going to be all that easy to do, but I can just tell from even this pretty smooth road that there's better body control, there's better motion control. It doesn't feel quite as soft, but I do feel a lot of compliance at least. Now, I do want to say that I'm not on the typical roads that I drive that are pretty broken up. This is a very nice piece of road, so this probably isn't going to be representative of an average drive, but let's see if I can get out onto the highway and see if it feels a little bit different. We're going to give it full throttle and turn the wheel at the same time, see what happens. All-wheel drive, hooks up, and it goes. It feels pretty good. It feels pretty quick. It feels pretty like it's pretty fast. I was significantly above the speed limit there for a moment. I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed in this. And the one thing that I've always felt with the previous Prime version, the plug-in hybrid, it is quicker, but it's not that quick. You can definitely feel the extra 20-something horsepower here. It's about 10% more. And if you got a car full of a bunch of people, it's just gonna be more satisfying. I can definitely feel some of the road imperfections a little bit more than driving the XLE that I just drove.
Let's go take a quick drive in the next vehicle. This is the Woodland Edition, so this is the more off-road focused version. Of course, this comes in all-wheel drive only, and this is a unique paint color that is specific to the Woodland. Sorry, I can't remember the name of it. Now, the grille has a different treatment from the other versions too, so it is more blacked out. There are less elements into it. It's less busy. And you also get these rigid driving lights up front, which are actually pretty cool. They're integrated, and that's pretty neat. And you do get a front camera. In fact, you get a front camera on all versions of the RAV4, which is pretty nice. The Woodland also comes with specific all-terrain tires. So these are a 65 series tire, so they're going to give you a lot more cushion. They're going to be able to handle rocks and difficult things on the road a lot better than a standard road tire. You get integrated rails on the roof with, I think, this crossbar that comes with it also. So of course you can fit all kinds of different accessories on here, which is kind of a nice thing for going off-roading or camping. And you also get a hitch, a trailer receiver. So this is standard, and let's go for a quick drive in some muddy, rainy conditions.
All right, we got some real Arizona rain happening. We're gonna be going down a hill. We got hill descent mode turned on. So that camera on the nose is actually super helpful because I can kind of see what's going on. I can see there's a little rut in between, so I'm going to put one wheel on each side of it, or actually two wheels on each side of the rut. We're in hill descent mode right now. And this is not the most rugged trail that I've ever seen in my life, but this is probably more intense than the Walmart parking lot curb that you just ran over by accident in the snow because you didn't know it was there. So it can definitely handle that. And it looks like it's definitely handling this relatively easy but rugged trail that we're going down here with some, looks like some cacti that have been burned out. Probably some party goers. Maybe some lightning, who knows? For this new generation RAV4, all that Toyota really needed to do was not screw things up. But in fact, they took this a whole lot farther. They needed to thread the needle for buyers who currently own a RAV4 and are looking to upgrade, and they still want to have something that says RAV4 when they get into it and drive, but they also want to understand that there's going to be they need to provide more value at the end of the day. And I think they've really walked that tightrope pretty effectively, because you've got a car that is the same dimensions, and it does some things, it does everything just a little bit better. The body structure is better, it's tighter, it's quieter, it rides better, it feels a little bit more premium, it gets better gas mileage, the plug-in hybrid gets more range. However, they also needed to add a whole bunch of new tech, and a lot of that is primarily in this new Toyota infotainment system. The voice commands work surprisingly well, and I know that they're going to improve them. The system itself is actually quite responsive. I like the fact that you've got a customizable home screen on it. Also, the information display in front of the driver is really pretty good. The black levels are pretty decent. Could be a hair brighter, perhaps. And I just like the overall layout of the cockpit. I think the design language is going to appeal to a lot of people. I really like it. I like this chunky, sort of aggressive look. And personally, I think that Toyota has got a win with this. I think they're going to sell a lot of these.
It's going to start in the low $30,000 range, and the hybrid should be available late in 2025, and the plug-in hybrid should be available sometime in the first half of 2026.
My name is Eric. Thanks for watching, and click this video right here.